It's preparing still. It's preparing still. We are live. We are live with Stephen Langer from Well by Design. We had the problem today with StreamYard, so we're using Zoom. Steve is a top guy. I'm honored to have him on. He's an international keynote speaker. He's all about organizational wellness, and he provides services in that field. He's creating the conditions for a healthy workplace culture. So you can find him at bydesign.com. What's interesting about Steve is that he was a former school principal, former teacher. So we're gonna talk about that today. This podcast is presented to you by podprayer.com. If you want to start your pod, just go grab our ebook or free ebook on our website, podprayer.com. We also have a cool masterclass for you to start your AI podcast. Steve, glad to have you on the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Thanks, Charles. Yeah, great to connect. Thanks for the introduction as well. Yeah, my world is all about organizational wellness and building healthy workplace cultures. I do that through keynote speaking across the world, as well as working directly with companies, really taking a look at what's going on in your organization and how we can move you towards optimal performance in a sustainable way. Because let's be honest, I think that a ton of people these days are burning out. Companies are having people that are off on leave, as well as just working through some real challenges. So we need to find a way forward that's more sustainable.
Right. And tell me about your background as a principal. Why did you shifted from this to having your own business?
Yeah, you know what? I had a really good opportunity in the education sector. I taught for years. I was a young principal, had the opportunity to lead principal mentorship groups and all those types of things. Worked for our local government as well as executive levels. But you kind of hit that point where you're like, I think I've given everything I can to the education sector, and it's time to look for something else. I was in a role that, let's be honest, it was toxic. I wasn't in a situation that I was really enjoying. I was only counting down the days to retirement. I had 13 years, 4 months, and so many days. And I woke up and was like, really, this is it? Like, there's got to be something better. So I've always been the kind of guy that's like, hey, if there's something better, let's go prove it. Let's do it. And that's where this started from.
And what was toxic about that? What's broken about their education system? Because I would have loved to have you as my principal back then, but unfortunately that wasn't the case. It was like really firm and strict people. What do you see that could be improved about the educational system?
Yeah, you know what? It wasn't the education system so much as a whole as it was certain working environments that I was in. We've all been in really good working environments where people care about you, they got your back. Work's tough. That's not going to change, but it's find a way forward where we understand that it's not always just all about work and you're not always on call. So for me, it was the idea that I want to make real change in an idea that I think people deserve to live a life worth living and get off that hamster wheel and start doing things with intention. And I think too often we sort of just like plow through our day with too much on our plate, get to the end of the day, grab a drink, watch Netflix, and wash, rinse, repeat, right? And I think that's maybe just not the right way to do it. There's more to it than that.
Right, that's the easy way, right? It's like what's readily accessible, what our culture wants us to do, right? Netflix is good, but Netflix is also pretty
Yeah.
bad, like Netflix for some people for most people is a lifesaver, right? Like Netflix is essential for them. That's why the subscription rates are so high. They want to distract themselves from the pain. Now, with your past toxic workplace situation, what was the root cause of that? Like is it humans that weren't happy to be there, not taking care of themselves and bringing that dark energy to the workplace? Have you identified the root cause of that?
Sometimes it comes from, and I'll preface this because it wasn't good for me doesn't mean it wasn't good for everybody else, right? Like that's a reality. Sometimes what works for me doesn't work for someone else, and vice versa. And so when you're working in a situation where you don't have the opportunity to lead, when you're working in an opportunity where you don't have autonomy or agency to do the work that you need to do, you're being prescribed exactly what's next and exactly how to move forward. There's it's really important for people to have agency as well as to get recognition in the way that they do their work. But I also think it's really important to disconnect. We can't be working all the time. everything can't be urgent and important. We need to really have clear guidance as to like what's the point of what we're doing, and let's stick to our key objectives.
Right. And who do you work with nowadays? And what are some wellness prescriptions that you give to some of your clients?
Yeah, I've really got a diverse spectrum of clients from associations at conferences. I do a lot of work with chartered accountants, a lot of work with realtors, a lot of work in the oil and gas sectors, and at the same time, sometimes I'm working in tech spheres and furniture restoration companies. It really the key is organizations are all struggling, and so if you're recognizing that things just aren't going the way that you're wanting them to go, that's where you got to dive in. And I think the key for me, so I do all the speaking and I do workshops and I get in there, but my idea is, we've all heard about wellness, but let's consider it in a different way. Let's talk about it in a way that maybe is a bit of a mind shift and, gives you a different perspective on things to make it really work. So it's not always the big thing. It's not always the benefits program. It's sure as hell not the fruit in the break room. It's the what are we doing on a day-to-day basis to clear the path for people to do a good job. So some of those like examples are giving an opportunity for deep work in your organization. How often do you go from a meeting and you got a 45-minute break till your next meeting? And what do you end up doing? You grab a coffee, go to the washroom, chat with a buddy, check your emails, get ready for the next meeting. You really did nothing in that 45 minutes, right? And then you go to the next meeting and do it all over again. And by the time you're done your day, you've completed nothing. If you can create a scenario where your team has 2 hours or 3 hours of uninterrupted, no meetings, no phone calls, deep work, they're going to get so much accomplished. Right? There's a book called Stolen Focus by Johan Hari, and he talks about the idea that if you are interrupted from deep work, it can take up to 23 minutes to get back there. So now imagine your CEOs and your leaders, and they're trying to get some deep work done. And all of a sudden you're getting like, hey, can I just bore you for a sec? Hey, quick call. Can we just jump on a quick meeting? And every time it's interrupting that workflow, right? How are people getting any time to do real work? Simple thing like that is one example.
Right. Do employees also question the nature of the companies they're working for? For example, an oil and gas company, um, and while Canada is shifting to green energy, like are people still down with that? Are they still motivated by the company's mission, which is mostly profits, in my opinion?
I mean, anytime you're working for an organization, it goes so much farther if you believe in the vision and kind of are connected to what they're doing. If you don't, that's where you get a real strong disconnect, right? And if you're not connected deeply to what's going on, how are you going to be engaged and motivated? Now that's different for everybody. I know there's a shift towards green energy, and I'm not, trained in how that shift is going to change over time. I can't foresee that. But there is still a need for energy in our sectors, and that will always be the case. I think what's key is that leaders are actually taking the time to ask their staff what's going on to help them move forward. I think so often it's like, hey, you know what? I gave my staff a wellness Wednesday, or I gave my staff a work from home day, or whatever. It's like, well, but that might not be what they need. What ask them what they need. They all want to do well. I've never seen anybody starting a job that says like, you know what? Yeah, my goal today is I'm going to screw the pooch, right? Like I'm going to come in late. I'm going to piss off a few people. I'm not going to do my job. I'm going to be late on a few things, take a long lunch and duck out early. Like nobody wants to do that. But if the if environment isn't engaging and set up for you to be successful, often it leads to that disengagement, right?
Right. And tell me about your thesis on how AI will impact wellness at work. Will it first replace a bunch of people and leave a bunch of people unhappy? Or will it really amplify and optimize the best of us and make work way more fun?
I mean, I think AI's got its place. I love toying around on AI and checking out what images it can build you, just getting a sense of the type of information that you can get, as well as productivity that you can gain. I don't think it has anything to do with absolutely replacing the workforce. As a matter of fact, I actually like to shift the idea because AI is AI and it's all good. But I think there's a different AI that is more important. And to me, that's artificial intelligence is good, but authentic interactions is where it's at. Like when we actually connect with people and when we actually build those deeper relationships and understand who's in the trenches with you, that goes so far in building the long-term retention plans that you want, in understanding how to put people in the right seats to do the right jobs. And leveraging AI, artificial intelligence, is good, but it will never replace the connections that we have as humans.
Well, I can already see AI replacing humans' connections. In my case, I use it for psychotherapy. I use it for creating music and all kinds of things. Uh, is authenticity even a real thing, or is it like a fabricated thing? In the corporate world, we see a lot of fake authenticity in the name of profits, so
Yeah,
I would think that AI could interact better than most humans nowadays. And then the intention and the soul behind it, the emotions behind it, the AI doesn't have that, but does it make it less real or less authentic? Is a question I have for you.
I think it does. I think it makes it less real because it isn't real. It's artificial in its name. It's artificial. You're right. It can do a ton of stuff. And I think I'm not passing it off as not important. I think AI is really valuable and should be leveraged by organizations because it can help move your organization forward in so many ways. But at the
Right.
core, yeah, I do think there is value in authentic relationships. I think there's value in someone who can actually read and interpret body language and read and interpret what you're saying based on context, who has the history of what you're going through to be able to have conversations with you at a deeper level, who also can cover you when you're needed. I think there's so much value to being able to connect with people in the
Right,
workplace.
and energy also, like emotions, they
Mhm.
emanate energy, right? So there's still that part of science that we haven't fully understood yet, but that there's that warmth to humans. There's that biochemistry as well. I still think AI was created by humans, right? So it is an extension of us. It doesn't make
Yeah.
it less real. And the world, it's been proving that reality can also be like computational. Then there's all these rabbit holes we can get into, but let's finish up with that. What are your top goals for this year? What do you want to achieve?
For me, one of the big things is I'm doing a TED Talk, TEDx talk in May. Really excited about that. That was one of the things that I wanted to do. From the start, for me, the idea was I wanted to build a company that had value, that offered depth, and that's a big piece for me is depth to the people that we work with. Anybody can come in, do a 1 hour presentation and walk away, but I want to know that the work that we do is actually moving you forward over time. So being able to see that and have the ongoing and repeat clients that we're being able to provide that depth for, that's really important. And then for me, one of the keys is like, hey, it's not really good if the wellness guy burns out, right? You need to make sure that as the wellness guy that you're taking care of yourself. And so I'm really intentional in the way that I design my business and the way that I do my work to make sure that I have time for my family, that I have time for the things that I enjoy, that I connect on a deeper level, and I don't push myself so far that I can't give to clients. Because at the end of the day, my goal is to come in and delight the client, like from start to finish. It's a seamless process, and I'm going to give you actionable insights in how to improve your organization. So, yeah, that's for me. The goal is just to continue that intentional path forward. Year over year, growth's been awesome, and just keep moving forward with those opportunities.
Where can people find out more about you, Steve?
Yeah, thanks. Connect with me on LinkedIn, Stephen Langer, and also wellbydesign.ca is my website. It's got lots of opportunities to connect for speaking engagements as well as free